After 4 long years, it's finally happened. The Walt Disney Company finally has a greater than $1 billion hit on their hand. Let's talk about Inside Out 2 and the fact that it's not quite moving the stock price the way it needs to here on That Park Place. Hello, I am Jonas J. Campbell, an investigative reporter for That Park Place, and here with me is my own personal headquarters, Vash. Vash, thank you for sliding the buttons and all of those things so that I could say even-keeled as we go through this conversation about Inside Out 2.
Well, just watch out for that pesky anxiety and you'll be just fine right there. Well, maybe, I don't know, does stress exist up there as well?
Man,
I want to watch out for them as well.
Embarrassment and ennui. Of course, it's fascinating that ennui did almost nothing in that film, which, of course, very like ennui. Let's talk about this out of Deadline first, and then we'll go to the numbers. Inside Out 2, Out of This World sequel crosses $1 billion global box office, fastest animated movie ever to milestone. This by Nancy Tartaglione over there at Deadline. Update: there's joy all around as Disney Pixar's Inside Out 2 has crossed the coveted $1 billion milestone at the worldwide box office with that much through 19 days. This is the quickest time to the mark for an animated movie ever, besting the previous record holder, Frozen 2, which got there in 25. Only 11 animated films have ever crossed the $1 billion threshold, and of those, Disney and Pixar combined have 8. This is fascinating to me because I wonder how they're classifying The Lion King in all of this. Even though that is fully animated, I don't know if they're technically counting it as an animated film. This is a big deal for Disney because, as we said before, it's been since 2019 that Disney has had a $1 billion movie at the box office. Their last one was the Lion King remake that was directed by Jon Favreau, and it did really well for the company. Obviously, Rise of Skywalker just a scotch above 1 billion, which was a declining set of figures for the Star Wars films there. And of course, Avengers Endgame was also that year.
Frozen 2 as well. So
was that also 2019? Man,
I believe it was. Yeah.
Firing on all cylinders there. Of course, Super Mario Brothers made $1 billion last year. Minions: Rise of Gru, I do believe that made $1 billion. So it's been a long time since Disney has been in that $1 billion club, even though some other films have made it this way. So the question that this raises for all of us who are paying attention here to the full. And people get mad at us when we cover the culture war aspect, but there is a culture war aspect here. The question in my mind is it because everybody found out that there's not any stuff in there that maybe 50% or so of the country would have a problem with? Or is it just, it's name recognition, finally? It's because, I'm going to say it, I don't think it's the quality of the film. The quality of the film, you get to a certain level, it's fine. Inside Out 2, nowhere near as good as the first one, in my opinion, but it made more. Vash, have you seen it at this point? What do you think?
I unfortunately have not been able to. I do apologize. But I saw so much of what Disney put out in 2018. I mean, it was almost mandatory viewing from a kind of, viewer's perspective. Just so many great films that have come out. And then recently, it's just been just a deluge of honestly garbage. And I think that's hurt the quality of Disney themselves and their various studios. So I think you're right, Jonas. I think people kind of heard about Inside Out 2 not being filled with things that a portion of the country might take issue with, and so they supported it. I do agree with you as well. I don't think it's necessarily strength of the Inside Out brand as much as, hey, look, listen, this is kind of a return to form for Pixar. I think that has a lot to do with it right there for sure. Now, Jonas, people are obviously going to comment and say, well, wait a minute, you forgot about Avatar 2. For those detractors, what would you say to that?
Oh, yeah. Well, we always forget about Avatar 2 because Avatar 2 was a purchase from Fox. It did make a lot of money at the box office, but that is a sequel from James Cameron that Disney had basically nothing to do with the production of that. There's also Spider-Man No Way Home, which is technically part of the MCU, but on paper, that's a Sony film. I'm not trying to give Disney a hard time, but this is the only film that Disney made that has made more than $1 billion dollars at the box office since 2019. We always forget about Avatar 2, and one day we will find out just how much money James Cameron actually makes on those films, because he's essentially making 5 Avatar films all at once. So until he gets into making Avatar 3, 4, and 5, maybe he'll do 12. I don't know. We won't know how much money he actually made, because right now that all of that production spend for all 5 is kind of being credited to number 2. There's more on that another time. But Disney is the beneficiary of Avatar 2 more than they are the company that is responsible for making it. So with no apologies, Disney and Pixar's Inside Out 2 is a Disney and Pixar production. So they can take all the credit for it. They will take home a majority of the box office. I say a majority of the box office. I want to say 50% here, 25%. What is it? They take home the largest percentage domestically, a lesser percentage internationally, and an even lesser percentage from China. And just so everybody knows, Inside Out 2 is in its 3rd week in theaters, and this last week it had a 43% drop, which that's not that bad for a 3rd week in theaters. It beat out A Quiet Place Day 1 and also Horizon and American Saga Chapter 1 here, and this is what got it above the $1 billion mark internationally, very clearly internationally. Now, of course, this coming weekend, another Despicable Me. They seem to go back and forth about what they want to call these films. Another Minions movie. No, I did it again. Another Despicable Me film is coming out this weekend. The question that comes up for me and Vash, and we've talked about this previously on the channel, is this a return to form for the Walt Disney Company? Is this a return to form for audiences? Because audiences appear to actually be showing up to the theaters. So have they flicked the switch here? And like Bad Boys, is it 4? Just Bad Boys for Life, or whatever you want to call this latest one. That one just made a ton of money at the box office for a Bad Boys film starring someone who is supposedly controversial at this point, Will Smith. Are audiences back? They could be. Deadpool right now, Deadpool 3, otherwise known as Deadpool and Wolverine, that looks like it's on track to be one of the biggest openings of all time, and it's rated R, so it's going to be filthy. So the question is, that's not a 4-quadrant film, and that's going to be making buckets of money, it sounds like.
Yeah,
and yet
I think it'll be offset by the PLFs or the premium large format screens.
I think you're probably right. And looking over here, the Disney stock price is not doing so hot. It's down more than 20% from what it was even on April 1st of this year. I think it might be up just a little bit year to date. Here we'll switch to year to date so we can get the actual number here. It was at $90.71. So it's up a little bit this year, 8.78% year to date, which according to some people, that's fantastic. But when you look at what it was even just a few months ago, around April 1st, this is when it was announced that Nelson Peltz would not be getting a seat on the board. We've lost something more than 20% of stock value at this point. Those are napkin figures. Don't harsh me on the specific details here. So we have a company that is softening in the theme parks. Maybe that's moving the stock price. We have a company that is doing well at theaters right now, today, over the last 3 weeks. They finally have $1 billion movie, which you would think that would move the needle here. I think they just had a quarter close yesterday as the recording of this video, but now they're down below $98. Watch, it'll tick up above 98 just to give me a hard time here. By the way, S&P 500 moving a different direction here. I'm starting to have a theory that maybe movies don't move the stock price here. Maybe theme parks don't move the stock price here. Maybe the only thing that moves the Walt Disney Company stock price is technology, and more on that in a moment. Vash, what do you think it's going to take to move this stock price? And by the way, no financial advice here on this channel. We're just having a friendly conversation, you see?
Yes, a friendly conversation indeed. Well, I think a couple things need to change desperately. They have to be able to show unique profitability for streaming. Perhaps that's why they're actually jumping into the user-generated content game in order to short some of the content costs that obviously work against the profitability of a segment like their DTC division. We need to see some growth there. And here's the thing, a couple of gusts of wind in the sails don't necessarily turn the ship around. Sure, they will have successes in Inside Out 2 and even Deadpool. There's no question in my mind that those things will be successful. But the problem, though, is that long-term or sustained success? We're going to be talking about on this channel, actually, maybe a film in the MCU canon not quite looking as bright, let's say, as something like a Deadpool. So we'll definitely be tuning into that.
Right. And we're back to the point where these movies might be costing 250 million or maybe 400 million a pop. Now, you referenced something that I'm not sure that everybody has watched. It's a video that came out on the channel Monday morning. There was a report out of CNBC talking about YouTube, and in that YouTube is the largest streaming platform, if you count it as a streaming platform, which most people just mentally don't do that, except that it's definitely a streaming platform. Disney is apparently looking at YouTube and wondering whether or not they need to be doing their own user-generated content platform out there on the internet. They also, of course, they got into Disney Plus because they were seeing how much money Netflix was making. And so far, Disney Plus has been an albatross sinking not just the entertainment division of the company, but also the theme park division of the company, because they drained a lot of those profits from the theme park division in order to pay for the Disney Plus division. The Disney Plus division still needs to make $11 billion in just pure profit before it pays for what has already come out of that streaming service. They're going to have, and they made $47 million in a quarter. That is them saying that they are profitable, but it's going to slide back in the next quarterly report, or at least that's what we're hearing. They haven't reported those figures yet. Those are based on Disney's own projections. That's going to slide back into the red before it gets back into the black. This is, of course, a huge problem for the Walt Disney Company, that Disney Plus was going to be the future of the company. It was going to be their Netflix competitor. And Netflix doing fantastic over there. Disney wants to move the stock price, I think, more than they actually want to be profitable. And nothing is moving that stock price right now. Vash, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, yeah, nothing's moving the stock price for this company, or even, I don't know if you saw, Jonas, but Nike took a huge hit recently in the stock price as well. We know that Mark Parker is the chairman of the board. Not only is he an influential voice at Nike, being the CEO and I believe the chairman of that board as well, but also the chairman of the Disney board. So, you know, these things cross-pollinate, if you will. One thing to note that was very interesting, and we'll go ahead and leave it off with this. China, not in the top 10 of international markets. In fact, Mexico is the largest international territory for Inside Out 2. That was very interesting, and one that I didn't see necessarily coming.
That is fascinating. You know, and Disney does well when they cater to Mexico. I gotta say, was it Coco? They actually released Coco in Spanish with a lot of the same cast that were delivering lines in the English-speaking version. They did the Spanish-speaking version first in Mexico for that one. So in some way, you could say that it was a foreign language release, but that's probably a video for another day, maybe a live stream discussion there. So we want to throw this to our commenters. One, have you seen Inside Out 2? Are you going to see Deadpool? Are you going to go see Moana 2? Are you going to go see Mufasa? The Lion King prequel, or whatever they end up calling that thing before it comes out here? Or are you going to just continue to move on and see what other companies are offering? Why am I asking this? Because it doesn't seem like the movies, despite being the biggest ads for the company, the biggest ads for Disney Plus, the biggest ads for what's coming to the theme parks, doesn't seem to move the stock price, which seems to be the only thing that Bob Iger is interested in these days. Like this video if you like this video, and consider subscribing to That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.
Thanks for watching That Park Place News. For more information, consider checking out www.thatparkplace.com. And don't forget to subscribe, share, like, and send this out on your favorite social media accounts.